And good afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, David Steele, and welcome to Real Talks, where every movie I talk about, new or old, ignites a conversation. Join me on the cinematic journey as I turn back the clock and talk in depth about some of the greatest films of all time. I'd like to welcome everybody to the beginning of what's going to be known as Marvel March here on the channel, where I'm going to be going through some of the best Marvel movies to date. And we're going to kick things off here with the one that got it all started back in 2008 with Iron Man. Now, before we get started, we have to go all the way back to 2004. That's when David Maskell was hired as the chief operating officer of Marvel Studios, and he had a plan and for the future of the franchise. Soon after, Marvel took a $525 million loan out from Merrill Lynch. Hello, Dad Pullen. Yes, it is. I wanted to get it started with this one here today. So sit back and enjoy. So they took out a $525 million loan from Merrill Lynch, but there was a condition. If Marvel had failed to make the money back within and pay it back within 10 years, they'd have to give up to the rights to 10 Marvel characters, including Ant-Man, the Avengers, Black Panther, and Nick Fury, among others. So Marvel entered talks with Universal to no avail. Merrill Lynch wanted to pull out of the deal with Marvel, but tried to force them to pay a third of the budget. Luckily, in 2005, they struck a distribution deal with Paramount, allowing the characters' rights to get to Iron Man, Thor, and Black Widow back to Marvel. A few years earlier, they made a decision that would change everything. They promoted then junior executive, Kevin Feige to the president of Marvel Studios. That was a pivotal decision that paved the way for Marvel's success toward success, starting with the release of Iron Man in 2008. So now that were going to be doing this, and they were tasked to finding the perfect Tony Stark, who are they going to get? So there were a few options out there. Okay, we had a very young Leonardo DiCaprio. We had the actor from Justified. We had Nicolas Cage, which would have been interesting. Okay, we had, of course, the fantasy choice that everybody wanted to see, Tom Cruise, Hugh Jackman, and somebody that would go on later and star in the sequel to Iron Man, Sam Rockwell. Now, that all being said, they did settle on RDJ. And the big thing about Robert Downey Jr. was he was a well-known actor, but he was troubled. This role would not only clean him up, but propel him to new heights of superstardom. Who would have thought, after over 15 years, tomorrow night would be his crowning achievement? Well, tonight, okay, in just a few hours, he'll be getting his Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his portrayal of Louis Strauss in Oppenheimer. Director Jon Favreau wanted RDJ because he felt the actor's past was right for the part. The best and wonderful moments of Robert's life has been in the public eye. He's had to find an inner balance to overcome obstacles that went far beyond his career. That's Tony Stark. Robert brings a depth. Robert brings a depth to the beyond a comic book character having trouble in high school or not getting the girl. Marvel pushed back, of course, on the casting, but Favreau was vigorously defended him because he was a fan of the comic. His authentic, emotional portrayal of the character won over all the audiences. So there was another little movie that came out. Now, for the budget, okay, now that they have their Iron Man, and it was on to production. The budget of the film was $140 million. So in April of 2006, Jon Favreau was hired to direct it. He was looking to create a politically ambitious ultimate spy movie in Iron Man, citing registration, listen to me, citing inspiration from Tom Clancy, James Bond, and RoboCop. There were two scripts that were written that were equally compelling. Okay, one was by Art Markham and Matt Holloway, and the other one was by Mark Fergus and Hawk Ostry. They were combined and polished by John August. Now, filming began in the middle of March of 2007 and concluded at the end of June. The whole shoot lasted a little over 100 days for principal photography. Now, as you just saw there, now that the film was ready to go, there was still some questions that that Marvel needed to be answered. Was this going to be a success? Was this going to be well received by the fans? This was going to be the first time we were going to have multiple characters across several different timelines, what would eventually be time and space. And after years of planning, the big day finally came. On May 4th, 2008, Iron Man would be released nationwide. And there's a whole story behind why it was released in May, and I'll get to that in a minute. This wouldn't the fans wouldn't have to wait long because they came out in bunches. And opening weekend, it made $98.6 million opening weekend, eventually finishing with a little over $318 million, which is in the top 90 domestic all time. Think about that, all time. And it finished his run with just about $586 million internationally, which is in the top 200 movies of all time ever, guys. Ever. So it currently sits at a rousing 94%. Critics across the board hailed it as a phenomenal film. So they showered it with praise. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave the film 4 out of 4 stars, praising Downey Jr.'s performance and stating, "At the end of the day, it's Robert Downey Jr. who powers the liftoff, separating this from most other superheroes." Now, I want to go back to something I touched upon. Why is this important? Okay, the release in May, because there was a little movie that was supposed to come out. Okay, a couple years and came out a couple of years earlier. Okay, and that was Spider Man. Spider Man. Okay, even though that was a Sony product. Okay, well, what would end up happening is because this was in '08. Okay, 9/11 happened, of course, in '01. So what ended up happening was they delayed that for a full year. And that was going to come out in June of 2000. Okay. And then what ended up happening was they pushed it to May. And there was a route, it was a huge, huge. So our blockbuster season used to be from June, July, and August. And then it got pushed back to May. So now it's May, June, July. August is still a month. That's a quote blockbuster month. But all of the films, the lesser films, really go there. So that's why. So, getting back to that, Gareth Franklin of Dark Horizons commended the impressive sets and mechanics that combined smoothly with relatively seamless CG, and said that Robert Downey Jr., along with director Jon Favreau, helped rise this, help make this formula great. The result is something that hardly is original or groundbreaking, but nevertheless is refreshing in its earnestness, avoiding dramatic, dark overtones and styling, in favor for an easygoing, crowd-pleasing action film with sprinkle with a sprinkle of anti-war and redemption themes. And that's part of this too, guys. We see this go on, and I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. So you guys just saw another little slide, okay? And that was this, The Dark Knight. There was another little film that came out, I'm sure you remember, okay? And it was called The Dark Knight. This is one of the greatest films ever for a number of different reasons, okay? You've got the crime element, okay, between the Batman and Joker. You have, Heath Ledger is just a legend in himself. Then you have the love triangle between Harvey Dent, Rachel, and Bruce, okay? And the the pacing was immaculate, never bogging the viewer down. It went on to be the winner of the year, okay, grossing 100. So Iron Man actually finished second, okay? It finished second opening weekend and everything else. So it actually opened to $158 million. and finished with $533 million domestically, and it broke $1 billion. Now, we always put $1 billion up there as a lofty goal, and it is. I mean, Oppenheimer did it, Barbie did it this year, Super Mario last year. Um, so if you can do that, you've made a lot of money, um, not only here in the States, but internationally. But there was another reason why, okay? And it was because that a lot of people, a lot of pundits, a lot of pundits believed that that film was now up until that point, there only had been five Best Picture nominees. A lot of pundits believed that that remarkable piece of filmmaking should have been nominated for Best Picture, and it wasn't. It got shut out. And so the next year, the American Pictures and Motion Sciences said that there would be up to 10 films that could be nominated for Best Picture. And we have a sliding scale since. Now, up until that point, many believed that The Dark Knight was Christopher Nolan's crowning achievement. That was until Oppenheimer. So, one of the many things that was a stepping off point for this was the title character of Tony Stark and others. Okay. I mean, all you got to do is take a look at this shot, and you'll see why a lot of people thought the cinematography was amazing. Okay, so um, one of the things that made this a great stepping off point was the title character of Tony Stark and others. Now, as a genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, he had it all. So once he got captured and learned how to survive, and he got back to the states. He was a completely different person with a much different personality and perspective. When he learned that his weapons could harm others, he went from being a provider to a protector. And this film would set the stage for them for years to come. As we see in future films, the bond between Tony and Rhodes, okay? Now, this obviously, Rhodes has been a central character in all of the MCU films, okay? Terrence Howard, there was a lot of speculation why he didn't come back, but we got Don Cheadle. For better or for worse, I think it was still a very good selection. Um, but you'll see that the bond between Tony and Rhodey strengthens, and they'll each have their own arc. Okay, that's something very important. Okay, um, I'm just writing the script for Infinity War right now, and one of the things I talk about in that, in this especially, is the character development. I mean, we're just starting out here, but if you go fast forward to 10 years, you really understand all of the things that Rhodey and Tony have gone through together. The other character that will play a central and intricate role in not only this film but in films to come is Pepper. And Pepper is going to be somebody that, Gwyneth Paltrow is somebody that was, she was with Tony from the very beginning. Now, as you just saw, just like any other hero, you need a formidable villain. Now, Obadiah was perfect. Jeff Bridges absolutely crushed this. Okay. In my opinion, Jeff Bridges did an incredible job of playing the evil genius very well. Okay. But it wasn't always that way. You wouldn't know it. Okay. But he was frustrated. So just a few years ago, he said in an interview, and these are his words now: "Wow, Jon Favreau, man, what a director. What a great filmmaker. It was Marvel's first adventure into making movies. It was so lucky to have both John and Downey both there because both of them are so terrific and they're improvising. We spent a couple years working on the script. We spent a couple of weeks working on the script and rehearsing together because we didn't like the original script and we thought, oh, yeah, we'll fix this and fix that. And then came the first day of shooting, and Marvel kind of threw out our script. So we had been working on. And he said, no, that's no good. It's got to be this and that. So there was a lot of confusion about what our script was going to be. And we were saying, what are we going to do? So we spent hours in one of our trailers going over lines and saying, oh, you'll play this part or I'll play that part. explaining how we were going to do it. John would say, "Oh, I know a writer. Let me see if he has any ideas." Meanwhile, the crew is standing on the sound stage, tapping their feet and saying, "When are we going to get this done?" Now, I wouldn't mind that. I'm getting paid. So, and then it drove me absolutely crazy until I made a slight adjustment in my brain. And that was, Jeff, just relax. You're making a $200 million student film. Just relax and have fun. And that kind of did the trick because here I am getting to play with these two incredible artists and just jam. And that's what we ended up doing. And for my money, that's the best Marvel film. I know I'm biased, but of course, but man, I thought it was a wonderful experience. So, among all of the other things I've listed, okay, another element that makes this movie really work is the action set pieces. The pacing was so good, and didn't go from 0 to 60 all at once. There are still the one iconic scene, and we look at it and say yes. And I think the one that everybody remembers. So there's another picture of Jeff Bridges with Stan Lee at one of the premieres, but it's this shot here. This is the shot that when you talk to anybody who's seen Iron Man, this is what it is, right? This is what they remember. That the shot where he's holding out his arms. Um, this is the one shot, and it's the iconic shot where he shoots the missile and then just walks away, and you see, the score was amazing too, and it just explodes. And I think also because of the villain was so good, the final fight with Obadiah was awesome, and I think that really held a lot of gravitas too. So the last thing that Marvel has to be credited with is really the introduction of the post-credit scene and mid-credit scene to their film. Okay, it was a genius way to keep the fans around till the very final frame, really. Okay, and of course they started it out in style, introducing the one and only Nick Fury to talk to Tony Stark. Right, you know, saying, "Oh, I have something I want to talk to you about called the Avengers Initiative," and that got everybody in a fervor and was started. It was really got it out of control because they thought about what the possibilities were going to be and where they could go from there. So now the question goes, okay, where do we go from here? We've had over 30 Disney feature films, multiple Disney Plus shows, okay? Will Marvel be able to sustain this frenetic pace? Is it too big for themselves? We'll have to see, and we'll explore that in another video. Did I ever see the alternate? No, I never did. I'll have to look into that. I didn't even know there was an alternate ending. That's fascinating. I'll definitely have to look into that. Um, but that being said, um, we'll definitely. So that's something to be explored for another video. Um, has is Marvel too big for themselves? Will they be able to sustain this frenetic pace? We'll have to see, and then we'll explore that sometime in another video. Um, basically, and this one was I am trying, and I. So truth be told, I had a script. I kind of was jumping around. Thought a PowerPoint would actually work. Um, this one's kind of a test run, so I probably won't do this for Infinity War. So, but that being said, I wanted to thank everybody for joining me today. Um, so the next one, as I said, I'm going to do is Infinity War. Um, so here's the thing, okay? Uh, let me get this off the screen because this is only about. I'm not going to keep this on too long, but it is amazing to see that we're 15 years removed from this. Okay. And the fact that, we've had over 30 feature films. I was doing the research last night. It's about $8 billion they made from the time they did Iron Man to Infinity War. Um, and I think once after Endgame, okay, re- everything changed. Everything changed because we were starting all over again, right? Um, Thank you. I'm going to. I hope you. So come back here after the Oscars, and Matthew Anderson and I are going to be doing a wrap up show about that, about the Oscars. So I definitely will, and I hope you do as well. Um, but that all being said, it's going to be interesting to see because they're definitely not in trouble. Okay, Marvel is definitely not in trouble, and there's something to be said there. I mean, they have so much. So they have three films coming out next year. Okay, they have Fantastic Four. They've got Captain America: Brave New World, and they have um, what we hope is Blade. Okay. That being said, I think it's going to be fantastic. So Marvel's not in trouble, and Bob Iger's even said this that they need to lessen their workload, and they're going to start dumping some of these sequels as they should. Um, but I think, without going on too much of a tangent, I think the one thing that they need to do is get back making feature films that don't connect to the Disney Plus shows. That's it. And they need to lessen their workload. If they do those two things and they just focus on feature films, and yes, put out a couple of Disney, I would like to see 5 projects per year. 2 to 3 feature films and 2 to 3 Disney Plus shows. That's it. If you do that, you'll keep people around. Okay. So, um, but Marvel Studios is and was revolutionary because they are really the ones that started the whole timeline multiverse universe, right? Up until that point, you had never had a studio. You had had superhero films. You had had sequels to superhero films, but you had never had one continuous, elongated, okay, elongated universe where you're mixing in the Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor and Iron Man and all of these different characters to fight a big bad, right? So I think that whatever they have planned, it's really going to work. So all of that being said, though, um, so couple of things. As I said, number one, Infinity War. I'm finishing up the script of that. I probably won't even do the script. I'll just do the slides because, as you could see, this was kind of a jumbled mess. Um, so Infinity War is going to be the next movie. Okay, I watched it last night for like the fifth time, and what I did was I put because I watched it with commentary on from the directors. Okay, so I watched it with on the screen on my television with the commentary on from Disney Plus, and then I wanted to hear the actual dialogue. So I took my tablet and I put the tablet next to me, and I had the dialogue for the movie. And as they were talking, I had the dialogue going. So I really think that gave a full immersive perspective of how everything went. So that's going to be the next movie. And then, we've got plenty of other movies. We've got Civil War, we've got Guardians of the Galaxy, we've got Endgame, we've got No Way Home, we've got a ton of other movies there. Um, and I'll talk about those throughout the whole thing of March. So that all being said, okay, don't forget, guys. We just put out the perfect movie for March, and that was Skyfall. Skyfall is just a perfect film in my opinion, and for a number of different reasons. And I will leave the link right up there for you guys, and that way you guys can check that out along with all my other perfect movies, the perfect movie um, films. Um, Anatomy of a movie. I've got ideas floating around in my head for Anatomy of a movie. I'm gonna Oppenheimer, probably do a scene from Oppenheimer. Definitely gonna do one on Heat. Of course, breaking down the coffee shop scene and why that is so iconic all those years later. Next year, guys, and I'll be doing it for the 30th anniversary, of course. Next year will be 30 years that Heat has been released. Think about that. 30 years. God, I feel old. Nonetheless, so that's that. And then we got a ton of other stuff coming up on the channel. So that all being said, okay, the last thing I'd like to talk to everybody about, okay, and Dadpool, you know all about this, and I thank you every time, and you're a loyal member, okay, is memberships. So everybody that's going to see this after, this is for everybody who's going to see this after the fact, okay? Um, yes, yes, there is. So Michael Mann wrote he wrote a book called Heat 2, and I've got it actually sitting on my bedside table. It jumps between um it tells different stories, okay? Um, and that is actually going to be his next film. So it's rumored, and I quote, rumored, that Austin Butler is going to play a young Chris, Val Kilmer's character, and a couple of other characters that are going to be mixed in. So that is going to be his next film. He's already said he's going to be making it. I wouldn't be shocked if they are going to try and put this out for the 30th anniversary. I wouldn't be shocked. But yes, so if you haven't already, I mean, the book's a good read so far. If you haven't already, pick it up on, hardcover or audio. It's not bad so far. I'm about halfway through it. Um, so another important thing here, guys, is memberships. And Dadpool, I thank you every time because it's necessary to. So Dadpool is not only a loyal person who comes back to these streams, but he is a loyal member. And here's the thing, guys. I made this super, super, super cheap for you guys. The first month what is completely free. So what I tell people is this: join for a month. It's not going to cost you a dime. Okay. It's not going to cost you a penny. Okay. If you feel like you're not getting as much entertainment and as much good quality material as you like, cancel. I'm not going to feel bad at all. But if you feel like you're getting some satisfaction out of this, you like the videos, you like the anatomy of a movie, you like the perfect movie series, you like Marvel March, you like these other things I'm doing here, sign up. Okay? The minimum is $3 a month. That's a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Okay? It's $6 a month for uh the producer, which is the middle, and then it's $10 a month. Now, here's what I say. Netflix just raised the prices again. Okay. HBO Max is $9.99 right now with ads. Okay. Netflix is raising their prices. Entertainment is becoming more and more expensive. Okay. I have not put one of these videos in all of the videos I've ever done. I have not put one of them behind a paywall. That means every single video you're getting is free. Okay. If you do sign up to become a member, it tells me a couple of things. Number one, you like the content. Number two, you believe in me. And number three, you want to see this channel grow. Okay. And my goal by the end of this year, okay, is to have 2,000 subscribers, hashtag road to 2,000. Okay. And to have 15 to 20 paid memberships after the first month. Okay. At whatever level. And that way, I want to get this to as many eyeballs as possible. Okay. I'm probably more than likely going to be doing a spaces tonight on Twitter or on X, as it's called. Um, that is my handle down there. If you guys want to go watch that or listen, join in the conversation in real time, guys, as the Oscars are going on. Um, come join me, right? Come join me, and we can talk about the Oscars together. Um, Follow me on Twitter, regardless. Okay, I'm always posting about movies, or always post in spaces about movies or everything else. Um, that all being said, I would love for you guys to give me your support. And, you know, if you have any suggestions for videos, let me know. Okay. This is all about retrospectives too. So I'm going back and talking about films that, let's face it, are, probably lost and forgotten, like in Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, which turned 40 this year. Okay. I did Street Fighter. I've done a number of different films. You can go find those on the channel, guys. Okay. So that's my goal. And I want this to go out to as many people as possible. Tonight is the biggest night of the year for any movie fan. Okay. And as a matter of fact, it starts in a few hours. Okay. So it will be very interesting to see. Come back here. Okay. After the Oscars are done. Okay. I'll figure out what time. And we'll do a wrap up show. So you're going to be getting all this stuff. So yeah, that's what I would say. And this is definitely a shorter video today, just because of the Oscars, and I'm trying to do some other things. So number one, I'm going to tell you to do four things today, not three, but four. Number one, enjoy the Oscars, as I'm going to. Number two, be safe. Number three, be careful. And number four, be good to one another, because those things are important. So I will see you back here probably 20 or 30 minutes after the Oscars are done. Okay, guys, take care of yourself. And I'm David Steele, and you have been watching Real Talks. Bye bye, guys.